Hello and welcome back to Rebekah. This is my weekly catch up on what I've read, what I'm currently reading, what I'm looking forward to reading in the next week, and general life stuff as well. So let's get right into the books. So I've already talked about these a bit in my November check-in, and I have finished both books now. I finished first Knit, Purl, A Baby and a Girl by Hettie, and this is a contemporary all about Poppy, who is unexpectedly pregnant after a hookup with her ex, and she goes to Planned Parenthood and meets her clinic escort, Rhiannon, who she has a great rapport with, and then inside she spots a flyer for a knitting group, and she winds up going to this knitting group, and who is there but Rhiannon, and they hit it off, and it's a really great exploration of insecurity and overcoming that to gain confidence, as well as this just sweet FF sapphic romance. So really enjoyed that one a lot. And the second one I read was The Duke Heist by Ridley. This is a historical, but it's not stuffy at all. It's got great witty banter between the two characters. And this follows a family, the Winchesters, who are kind of not proper in society because they are adopted orphans. So they don't have the right standing, I guess. And meanwhile, the Duke of Faircliff does have the right standing, but he's poor. And so he's trying to make a match that will allow him to improve his finances. And meanwhile, Chloe is planning a heist to steal back a painting that the Duke's father kind of swindled from them. So this one was great fun. It had a wonderful premise. I loved all the characters, and I am actually immediately when I met the characters, the two that are going to be the subject of the next book, I immediately wanted to read their story. So, and I hadn't even realized that it was actually their story that was coming up. So I'm definitely going to continue on with the series. I really enjoyed it. So I will talk more about that in my next week's November check-in, I'm sure. And then on to my non-romance finishes. So I had a great reading week. So I finished up If Then by Kate Hope Day. And this one is a sci-fi. It's all about four characters in this town where people have started seeing alternate versions of their life. So simple different choices that they may have made, and at times they're seeing other people. So one of the first instances where this happens, there is a woman who is laying in her bed, and she gets a flash not of her husband but of another woman that she had kind of a romantic interest in the past, and she sees this other woman laying in bed next to her. And so she gets this flash and doesn't really understand what's going on. In other cases, they are actually seeing different alternate versions of themselves that have gone through something. So I found that concept so interesting, and it's all sort of a catalyst to this is a natural disaster. And so one of the characters is studying the reaction of animals surrounding natural disasters and how that can be a predictor. And so this whole thing is all caught up in that, this natural disaster as a catalyst, but then also the philosophy of, I can't remember what the term is. It's, so counterfactuals is what this calls them. So that's like not fact, non-real things that have happened or that could happen in an alternate dimension. And so one of the characters in here is studying as a grad student in philosophy under someone who specializes in this idea of counterfactuals. And so I thought that was maybe a little on the nose for me. And so it didn't work as much having that element literally as a character element here. But I think also another thing that didn't work in here for me is that one of the characters, their characterization just got increasingly wacky. And it was like, couldn't follow really the rationale. They were making extremely irrational and risky choices more and more, and just dangerous things. And it didn't really make a whole lot of sense to me that they would do that. But one of the things that this book did do very, very well is regarding choices as well, is that in these flashes of alternatives, the people didn't make the choice to lead them to this alternate reality, but them seeing these alternatives start affecting their choices going forward. And so knowing that those things are out there has an impact on what they do in the future. So I found that very, very interesting. I think, I guess, spoiler for this, I will spoiler it below, but we follow 4 characters, and you kind of just assume, I guess, at first, that all of them are in the same reality. But as it goes along, you begin to piece together that these people are, one person's reality is another person's alternate that they're seeing these visions of. And so that is really interesting. It, reminds us that if that scenario were to come true, there isn't one reality. They're all equally valid options in this, multiverse dimensional setup. So yeah, I found that really interesting. So I thought this might be a new favorite. I was really looking forward to it. I think this was a debut, and it maybe suffered from that. But for as short as this is pretty small, slim little volume. It really packed a punch, and I enjoyed it a ton. I'm looking forward to getting to Kate Hope Day's new book. So that was a good one. The next one, oh man, I wound up liking this so much. This is The Bird King by G. Willow Wilson. This is historical fantasy, and it definitely had very strong vibes of magical realism for me, even though it's not quite the same thing. It's pretty low on the fantasy side, but this is set in historical Granada at a sultan's Alhambra, and they are under siege because Ferdinand and Isabel have just joined to form Spain. The Inquisition is just beginning, and it talks a little bit about the fact that all of the Jews and Muslims are being forced to become Catholic in their nation, in their newly formed nation, and so they're going through that, and the Inquisition is like just a rumor almost at this point. So it's not as much established. These people have been because they're under siege, they're a little bit cut off, and so they don't really know what's going on entirely. But this follows Fatima first, who is a concubine to the Sultan, and she was born in the Alhambra, and so she has never been outside. At one point, they bring up the fact that she doesn't own shoes. She has like slippers and stuff because she's just wandering around in the palace, and she's never had to worry about that. So she is kind of a naive character, but it's in a believable way, in a very valid way, because she's had this really sheltered life, and people bring that up to her quite often, where she's never been hungry, and meanwhile people around are starving. And then as well, she has her friend Hassan, who is the royal map maker, and Hassan has spent a large part of his life in the Alhambra as well, because he's kind of got a special ability, and so he apprenticed very young. So his special ability is that he can make these maps that he needs materials in the map in order to do this, but he makes doors and can alter the landscape of the place he's drawing in some ways. So it's magical, but it's just kind of accepted by the people there. He's also gay, and it talks a fair amount about how in order for these people who are very devout and religious to accept that, they have to be in denial about it. So it's an open secret where everybody knows that he is, but everybody treats him as if he isn't. So they can't talk about it really. And so that's hurtful for him, but he's able to live his life really as is, and be accepted within the Alhambra for the most part. So he and Fatima have this really incredible relationship, though. They're almost close, like a brother and sister. They say at points that they're like soulmates. So what happens is that they come under threat. Obviously, this outside force from Spain is kind of been a threat for a long time, and it winds up with Hassan and Fatima fleeing. And I won't say more than that, I don't think, about the specifics of the plot, other than that, this does turn into a journey novel. So they're in flight from these people that are hunting them for most of the book. So the plot and the link to the title here, the Bird King, is really back to this story that they have told to each other, where they found a couple pages of a story that's incomplete, that was about the Council of Birds. And Hassan and Fatima began building this story beyond that. And that becomes kind of the inspiration for their flight and what they are running toward. And so this had some really, really interesting ideas surrounding that. So I loved this quote. Once a story leaves the hands of its author, it belongs to the reader, and the reader may see any number of things, conflicting things, contradictory things. The author goes silent. If what he intended mattered so very much, there would be no need for inquisitions and schisms and wars. But he is silent. Silent. The author of the poem is silent. The author of the world is silent. We are left with no intentions but our own. And so they are off on this journey based on this story that they have used a seed of someone else's work and built into their own ideas about the potential for a place where they could run away to. And so I found that wonderful. I really, really enjoyed this. I keep debating whether this should be a 5-star because I love the story so much, and I have some pretty serious problems with it, though, like critiques enough that it shouldn't be a 5-star logically, but I enjoyed it so much that I feel like it should be a new favorite. What I didn't like about this is that for a historical, I wanted so much more context to be actually fleshed out in the text. Like, you're going to have to go in knowing a little bit about Ferdinand and Isabella and the Inquisition. I think most people probably do know what that is, but it doesn't spend any time explaining that really at all. It doesn't spend any time explaining their religion, and so we get certain flashes of things throughout, and the fact that they're praying at certain times of day and that sort of thing, but we don't really learn anything about the context of their Muslim religion or why the Catholics might not like that. So I didn't like that as much. I really, really wish we had gotten a lot more history. And then the journey element of this, it kind of just feels like they're always fleeing. So they're just persistently on the run for about 75% of this book. And that felt like it could have been trimmed in order to flesh out more history. Really, we get so much of that doesn't feel like it has a purpose other than showing them running. And so I think, the balance wasn't there, but I enjoyed this so much, and it was so fresh to me that I feel like, this is one that I'm gonna think back on a lot, and I just really was surprised by it. And I think actually both of those, so those two that I finished were on my Goodreads 2021 TBR, so I'm happy to have knocked those off. That's really great. So that is what I finished this week in terms of what I am reading. So I had The Burning God on audio, and I lost it. So I have borrowed it once and was reading it on my phone. I got 100 pages or so in. So I had it on audio, and I got like halfway and lost it. So I've had it for a couple months now and just slowly been chipping it away at it. So I do want to finish that one by the end of the year. If you saw my end of the year book tag, that was one I mentioned. So I'm going to get it back, but I did already also have Broken by Jenny Lawson checked out. And so I'm working on that. I started a puzzle, and I'll throw in some footage of puzzling. But my library borrows out puzzles. So I haven't done that in a long time, not since the pandemic started, because I felt a little weird about, that's something that somebody has breathed on a lot, all of that. But I thought it was probably safe to start getting them again. And so I've been really doing a lot of that rather than you. So anyway, I listened to, I think, over half of Broken by Jenny Lawson, even though that was my maybe we'll get to it option for Nonfiction November. And I think it's going to be my first one to finish. Then on other stuff I'm working on in print, I've got A Cowboy to Remember by Rebekah Weatherspoon. This is my next romance pick, and I just barely started it. And then I've got my other nonfiction, Sissy, A Coming of Gender Story by Tobia. I think this is one I want to focus on, maybe. I think this is going to be my focus for this week, because I got 2 chapters in. It's very slow reading because I'm trying to focus on it a lot. But yeah, so that is what I'm in progress on. In terms of what's coming up, I think I made the hard decision that I am going to be able to do everything that I want to. I've got another week off coming up in December, so I think I can pick up the last 2 books that I have not read yet for the Hugo novels shortlist. So I'm going to try to do that. I'm going to go take these books back and pick up one of the 2 books that I have unread at the library. And that's going to mean a real push this month. And as I said, I think early December I will also have time when I can read more than usual too. So I think I can get it in before the actual award winners are announced. I will not make the voting deadline, which is fine. But yeah, I think I will get in and make a video and tell you all what I think about the novels list. So yeah, that will be fun. We'll see if I can get it done, because that adds 2 more additional books I have to read in about the next month and a half. So that's what I'm doing in terms of reading. So in terms of my week, it was kind of a downer. It was just generally pretty high stress, but it's very hard to have faith in humanity. Or keep faith in humanity when you are involved with animal rescue. So someone dumped, I think, almost 20 cats and kittens at the shelter out of hours one day, and they're in pretty bad condition. They're really unhealthy. So I am going to be getting a couple of those. I'm waiting to hear back on picking them up. But they're all sick, and this is, I'm sure it looks like probably infections, but it's like some of them may lose eyes and stuff. It's very possible because they were just not taken care of. And if this person had reached out to the shelter, they could have gotten whatever medical care they needed done. They would have been helped out, and instead they're in such bad condition that they're all probably going to be okay, but they, this has been allowed to go unchecked way too far, and so they're in pretty serious condition. So they're going to need places to go where someone can just keep an eye on them and have a very calm place to recover and get regular medical care and stuff. So I'm sure it'll probably be like antibiotics and stuff. So we'll see if they are in okay condition, or if they get to okay condition. I'll show them on here, but they're looking pretty nasty right now, so I don't want to really show that off on here. But yeah, so I will have those guys for a couple weeks probably once I hear back. And then my own cats had to go in for their shots, because obviously if I have fosters in and out, my cats are completely indoor, so usually you don't really have to worry that much about shots if you have totally indoor cats, but I have to be very careful about keeping them up to date on any sort of vaccinations because of that. So yes, so they had their shots, so they're a little stressed out from having the trip to the vet. And this was the first time I've been to the vet where I've been allowed actually in in the past year and a half. So I think that maybe helped a little bit, but they still are not happy. And then on top of that, it's a very animal full week, but then it's always a very animal focused week with me. I decided to get me and my dog holiday photos, because the place that does his grooming and daycare, they did like photos with Santa. So we went and got professional photos. I don't even know when the last time I've had professional photos of myself done. I think maybe in college. But so I was thinking, you know, he's getting old. So you know, we're coming toward the end of his life. So I thought it would be nice to have a nice professional picture, and you can get them done as like the holiday cards. So I'm gonna do that and send those out for my holiday cards this year. So I'm happy about that. But you know, he hams it up and just wanted to be friends with everybody and convince them all that he's the most popular guy. So he loved it. Yeah, I think that is it for my week this week. Yeah, and I don't have anything to recommend this week. I have been watching and liking. I haven't been commenting on stuff this week. So if you haven't seen me comment on your videos, I probably watched them, but just have been not in a commenting mood. And I haven't seen anything that was like, I've been watching a lot of the staple videos rather than anything long and drawn out. So I've got a lot of stuff to go back to. Yeah, so I think that is it for my past week. We did have a big change in weather, and we did hit freezing temps overnight, so that was really drastic. So I'll throw in some footage of me and Rue enjoying the last warm days outside, and of puzzling. that's what I've been doing this week. Yeah, I think that's it. Thanks so much for stopping by, and thanks for watching. So this is the puzzle that we're doing. Look at all that progress! Listen to way too much of my audiobook. If you don't have a cat, you may not know there are challenges to doing a puzzle. Thank you, Ridley. So helpful. So helpful. And it only took about 5 hours. It's done. And my supervisor over here. What are you doing? Huh, buddy? Me and Rue are just enjoying the last little bit of heat before the temperature drops. The wind is blowing in a cold front. We're supposed to drop 40 degrees tonight. Hey, Ruby boy, what are you doing? The Halloween decoration. The wind is blowing the trees. Hi. I can't even see. So this is the extent of costuming for a cinnamon. Huh. Yeah. Good boy.